Hello everyone, welcome to Conversations with Joy. I'm your host, Bonnie Rodriguez. I'm an author, speaker, and a coach, and I help women to ignite their inner power so they can live with more peace, passion, and joy. And today I have an amazing woman with me. Her name is Michelle Catanach, and I'm so looking forward to this because we have so many things to share today about the wild woman and engaging your soul. So Michelle, would you mind to introduce yourself and explain everyone a little bit of what you do?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Michelle Catanach, and I help women to uncage their soul and basically step into wholeness. So I'm really passionate about women fully expressing their whole selves, the light and the dark, to completely own who they are and to really just connect with that part of themselves, because I honestly believe, especially as mums, the more authentic that we are, the more authentically we're going to raise our children. And when we rise, our children rise. And that is essentially how I believe that we're going to change the world. And it starts with us women first and foremost.
I love it. You know, I so resonate with your message, and we are in a mission in this world, and I'm so excited about the topic today because I've been reading this book for the last 2 days, Woman Who Ran with the Wolves, and it's by Clarissa Pinkola. It's not a new book. It's quite a thick book, a lot on archetypes and psychology, and really going back into that woman that is whole within herself, is not holding back, is expressing, uncaging the soul. And I think it talks a lot about also how as women we have been put down or restricted, or in some ways told that you need to be good and that you need to be quiet and then you need to say yes. And I'm so excited because I know you are cooking a nice book where I'm part of the collaborators, and we are all looking forward to get that book see the light, because it's all about speaking your truth. So I would like to know more about how you define a wild woman. What's a wild woman for you? When do you know you are tapping into that archetype? And yes, what's expressing your soul in full essence?
Okay, so for me, if I just give you more of a background about me and how I came to uncage my soul. So I, like a lot of women, went through my childhood and certainly my early 20s desperately trying to fit in, because I got the message, like we all do, that who we are isn't enough, who we are isn't good enough, that we somehow need to change in order to be acceptable, in order to be more lovable. So, you know, I went through school, straight A student, I was the good girl, I was the model student. But I didn't have a voice for years and years and years. I could not verbally express myself in any way. I didn't feel like I had a valid opinion, that no one actually cared. When I did actually speak, I felt as though no one was listening. So I felt like a mute for a lot of my life. I felt like I was silenced. And the times that I did try desperately to speak my truth, when I wanted to set some boundaries or just say, you know, that isn't right for me, it's like I was completely shot down. I was shamed because I was a very quiet person, and it was the very loud people who were always the ones that kind of shamed me for being so quiet. And of course I just retreated more and more into my shell. I'm massively sensitive, I am an introvert, but I didn't realise back then that it was okay to be that way. I felt just so much shame about who I was. And then as I got older, went through my teens and then into my early 20s, I then started to carry a lot of shame, like sexual shame, for instance. You know, being made to feel I was dirty because I had sexual desires, or just the very fact that I wanted to have sex. And also the fact that all I wanted was to be validated and to feel loved. The only way I knew how to feel validated was to be in a relationship, was to be with a man, because I got the message that that's how you validated yourself as a woman, that you were worthless if you didn't have a man on your arm. And because of that, I had some very, very unhealthy relationships, and they're relationships that lasted several years. And, you know, one boyfriend in particular, I was with him for nearly 3 years, and I didn't leave the relationship, even though it was emotionally very, very abusive. I mean, he was a gaslighter, he was a narcissist. The one before him wasn't much better, was actually a bit of a bully, but I stayed in those relationships because I'd attached that relationship to my sense of worth, that if that relationship failed, it meant that I was a failure. So I had all these relationships, and then from there, lots of one-night stands, this desperate need to, on one hand, feel loved and validated, but also on the other hand, some very destructive behaviours, because I needed to, on another level, perpetuate that belief that I wasn't worthy or wasn't good enough. So my destructive side came up a lot. So I spent a lot of my time feeling very repressed, stuffing down my emotions with food, sex, alcohol, not allowing myself to fully express myself, not allowing myself to be truly seen or heard, because I carried so much shame about who I was. And I would, I would have different friendship groups, and I would change my whole personality depending on who I was hanging around with, because I didn't realise that I was enough exactly as I was. And of course, the more and more you try to change yourself, the more you try to force yourself to fit in and into a box, the more soul suppressed you become, the more unhappy, the more stressed and anxious. And this is how we end up with mental health issues, because we're disconnecting from our soul, disconnecting from our heart. And this was my life for many, many years. When I was 19, I took an overdose with the intention of killing myself. Thank goodness it didn't actually work, but I just wanted out of this life, because my whole self-worth and self-value and self-esteem was attached to being into some really unhealthy relationships. And I thought, if I'm not in a relationship, then who the hell am I? And then I met Steve. So we've been together now 11 and a half years. And, he's a really good guy, hence why we are still together. But the first year of our relationship was hell for him, because I was trying to push him away. I was trying to prove to him try to prove to myself that, first of all, he was like all the others. But I was also trying to prove to myself that I wasn't worthy and deserving of love. So I was very violent, very aggressive towards him, very verbally abusive. I would go out most nights and feed my demons with lots and lots of alcohol, and then go back home and unleash my wounds onto him. And luckily he never once retaliated, because he's not that kind of guy. And then we decided to go traveling together, because it was always my dream to travel, and he reluctantly agreed to come with me. I don't actually know why he wanted to come. I think he just liked the idea of traveling rather than actually traveling with me. And then something did whilst I was traveling. So I was away for 10 months, and there was just a moment on my 26th birthday when I was in Australia that I suddenly felt free. The first time in my life. It's like all of the stuff that was in my shadow had lifted, and I just saw the world completely different. I didn't do anything. It's not like I didn't start reading personal development books until a few years ago. It was purely because I was more connected and more grounded to myself, and it allowed, in that stillness and in that peace, I was allowed just to gain a different perspective and just shed of the stuff that I'd been carrying for so long. So that was really the first moment that I started to feel free and really uncage myself. And it wasn't like it happened overnight. There was still another story from that point. But that really was, in essence, that first point that I started to show up more authentically, and as a result, more goodness came into my life.
Yeah, I love what you say about once you are aligned with your true self, or aligning to your true soul, and you're free from any conditioning, and mostly because you said so many important in your story, and I love it because it's a real story. It's like, and what I love from this is that it's not about, oh, I read a personal development book, and then, no, it's personal experience. And that's why I feel it's so close to me, because it's when you live it, that then you can help other people in a deeper way, in a more big way, because you have gone through that pain, through that darkness, through that moment of desperation, and then you go and see the light on the other side. And it's interesting what you say about self-worth, because we tend to attach self-worth a lot on what others say about us all the time. Yeah. Validation, especially women. Oh my God, what you say about relationships, we attach the fact that, and I recently, as you know, I divorced and separate with my ex-partner, and I think people tend to think that if you are not with someone, oh my God, something is wrong. And more and more we see examples that it's not necessarily true. It's beautiful to have a relationship, but not any sort of codependent relationship. I think it's about being whole with yourself first, igniting that inner power, and actually being in your authentic self, that then you can bring something of value in the table, and you can be also a better mom, like you are, you know, like with more consciousness. So it's bringing consciousness. And I'm very and when you say about suppression, that you're feeling suppressed because actually you couldn't express yourself because you felt different. And I think I sympathize a lot on the highly sensitive people, the people who we tend to think, well, we were the quiet ones, the good ones. In general, in society as well, for women, we are told to be quiet, to be good, not to have sexual desires because that's, not good, only for guys. So all these things, I think we are shedding layers and layers that are not serving us anymore for the new paradigm. And that's why I think the wild archetype is that woman that is like, I want to be free. I'm going to tap into my shadows. I'm going to embrace all my nasties and my beauties. And it's amazing if you find the right person. But once you have been in that dark place as well, you know more clearly what you want and what you don't want. And I think your story is very empowering because at the beginning, we tend to seek approval for many people. But then it's like when you reach that point, obviously, that with your 26 years old you were able to feel free. I think it's amazing. It took you only 26 years. I know people with 60, 70, 80 and they're still not free. And so how do you know, you talk about tapping into your heart, and I think we have a lot of people with very rational as well, but I think as women we need to tap more into that intuition, which is part of both sides, right? We reach alignment once we are both yin yang and our masculine side with our feminine side. So how do you know you are in alignment, or when you lose your alignment, how do you bring back your connection with your heart?
So for me, when I'm out of alignment, the greatest indicator is normally when I'm with my children. So I am, on the whole, a conscious mum. I am in no way a perfect mum, and I never ever claim to be, but I try to be as conscious as I can. But I am human, and there are times that I am completely caught up in my head. So I always know when I'm out of alignment, when I'm feeling really stressed, when I feel really angry, when I'm feeling frustrated, and I am more snappy with the kids. I'm less tolerant, less patient, and I'm aware that I'm projecting outwards onto them. That's always a great indicator for me to actually go, oh, hang on a minute, what's really going on with me? And then that's when I can take a step back and kind of do the more introspective work to see what's really going on. But anytime I'm feeling like that, it's always an indicator that I am out of alignment. When I'm connected to my heart and my soul, a great indicator, well, one is that feeling of peace. It's just that feeling of calm, like you're home. There's no kind of mind chatter going on. You're just completely present, and you're completely self-aware, and you're just completely aware of everything around you. You see beauty in everything. And it's that feeling, like when I'm really connected to joy and to my heart, I can feel that energy, and it's like a sudden rush of energy, and it goes through my entire body, and it makes me feel alive. Like, don't we all want to feel alive? And that's exactly what it feels like. You can feel like the tips of your fingers. You're just so in your body and so connected. So it's really the difference between being in your body and being in your head. And when you're in your head, it's like you can't even feel your body. It's like you're completely detached from the next one.
I love what you say. I love this. Actually, it's totally true, being in your body, because when we are too much in the head, I feel the energy just scatters and you start feeling stressed and all is out of control. But when you are in your soul and your heart, you are with the whole as well. I call it Holy Spirit or whatever you want to call it, God, the universe. But you feel, I love when you say feel home, because that's exactly how I feel. And it's so beautiful because you get that rush, that Kundalini energy coming from the ground and going up, and you feel like everything is more colorful, it's more beautiful. And that's why I think, at least my vision is to ignite that inner power for women. And I think I so connect with your vision on making people like really free. I can see the souls dancing, you know, and really rising up into their true essence. And I think this work that we need to bring into the world is basically more and more souls being able to express free. So I think in terms of expressing, what are the ways that you express your soul? We are tapping into creativity and creative power, because that's when you ignite that light and that power, everything is beautiful. You mentioned in a previous conversation we had about nature. So how do you get inspired? What do you like to create to bring that joy and alignment, peace, passion in your life?
Yeah. I think I want to start by just reminding everybody that they are creative. Like, we all have that creative energy inside of us, because we are creation. That's how we were created. We are that energy. But so many people detach from their creativity because they think they're not creative, because we go through school learning tools and techniques, and then learning that somehow we're not creative because we're not ticking the boxes, we're not getting the grades. But that creative energy is within each and every one of us, and it's not necessarily about being artistic. It's literally about just creating something from nothing, like creating your life, problem solving, you know, that kind of stuff. We all have access, and the more we connect to that part of ourselves, the more we can create, the more we are able to create exactly the life that we all want to create. But for me, my creativity really is about being artistic and moving my body. So dancing, I'm teaching myself the piano at the moment. So I have a little tinker on the piano. And it's also this deep belief, or this deep knowing inside of me, that like so many people, we don't do things because we think we're too old. And that's just such an ego thing. That is just such a societal thing to think. So people don't take that action to try something new because they think they're too old. But I literally, if I get that feeling in my body of excitement, of joy, I will do that thing, because to me that's what life is about, and it's connecting with that. So at the moment it's the piano. At some point that's going to change and I'm going to try something else. So I'm constantly just being really creative, trying new things, experimenting, exploring, tapping into that childlike innocence that we all have, because that never leaves us. We just think it does. So I try to get as creative as I possibly can in any way. It's when I really feel connected and grounded, when it's that moment where time seems to stand still, like you suddenly lose all concept of time. When we're always in our head, it's like we're always in a rush, time's running out. But when you're so grounded and connected, there is no time. There is time, but time is infinite. You realise that there is only now, and time doesn't ever run out. And the other way is nature. I feel, certainly in the last month or so, I have felt more and more called to get out into nature. So I started dabbling with essential oils about a year ago, but it's now that they're really coming into my life as a way to bring more nature to me, and also actually getting out in nature. So going to my favourite spot in the woods, just going for walks, just being with trees and flowers, and walking on the grass with bare feet, really just feeling connected. That's how I just feel home and alive.
Yeah, because I love it. I have felt the call very strongly. I don't know if it's because of the energies, and as highly sensitive people, we feel the energy shifting. But I love what you say, but going back to nature, and I think once we are going back to nature, we intuitively tap into that inner child and that playfulness of being alive. And I'm very childlike. I used to be also kind of, I love what you say about learning piano and dancing, because that's the thing, that's the beauty, and that's the true essence of being alive, right? Really living, not like, okay, you can love working in a 9 to 5 and that's fine, but what else is there for me? And I'm getting more and more people coming and saying, what else is there for me? Just work? The soul wants to express. And I think, I don't know about you, but what I feel is like the new world, or a new paradigm shift, which is here already, wants people to really free and express themselves and earn their living by who they are and who they truly are. And the society is telling us constantly we are not good enough, and now it's like, you are enough, you are good enough with what you are, what you have, because we are limitless, as you say, infinite time and infinite potential, I believe. And when you say going back to nature and connecting to now, I think once you are in nature, it connects you to the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, all possibilities are there. And actually, as you say, that the time feels like expansive. Suddenly you have all the time in the world because you are in peace, you are in harmony, and then inspiration comes to you, and then it's a cycle of magic. I find it very magic, because then you are able to tap into your intuition and you find signs everywhere. So
yeah,
what about signs? What about, do you believe in signs? Do you believe in synchronicity? What are your beliefs into this new age, or kind of the paradigm shift, and finding alignment with the whole in a way?
Yeah, I do believe in science and synchronicity, and I also believe that the more we connect to who we really are, the more comes into our awareness. And then of course once something's in our awareness, the more we spot that thing. It's about getting really clear on who you are, and knowing what you want, and then allowing. And then it's kind of like when we start seeing those signs, it's almost like, I was about to say validation. Obviously I'm very anti seeking validation externally, but it is kind of like a validation that you are on the right path. Not that there's ever actually any wrong path, because everything is a stepping stone. Everything is a lesson and an opportunity for growth, but it does kind of give you that little, I guess, confirmation that you are where you need to be. So I do believe in all of that, and I do believe that each and every one of us, again, when we're in our heads, or again coming from a kind of old paradigm of being, we're very much chasing something, whether it's chasing love or chasing success, and we're constantly projecting into the future, and in doing so we're completely disconnecting from ourselves. But wherever we're at in this moment, right here, right now, is where we need to be in this moment. We don't need to keep, we can have a vision. We don't need to keep chasing it, because this moment is what actually matters, what actually counts.
I love it. And I tend to, because I'm Aquarius, I'm an air sign, and I'm very intuitive and tap into intuition, but sometimes I tend to overthink things, and that's something I quite eliminated in the last 2 years of my life. I come from a corporate environment where we are told the contrary. You need to push, you need to achieve, you need to produce, and what you're saying is more like, well, actually you just need to be right here. You know the next step, but you don't need to know. You can have your vision where you want to go, but you don't need to have all pieces together, because actually there are certain things we can control, but others we cannot. So what's the point of like holding into attaching to something that we don't even know is there? And that's amazing. So just to go back into this, I want to go into something that it's stopping people from actually playing like a child, or expressing themselves, and that's fear. And it's normally fear of judgment. And I say this because the more you connect with your true essence, the more you want to express yourself, and the more people is like, what on earth are you doing? Because I remember I was in Italy a few months ago, and I just went and danced without even knowing how to dance, salsa. But it's not about the technique, it's about expressing your true essence. But I feel like my friends were so stuck in their heads that they wanted to know the right steps, that they were not having fun. And I asked why, and they were saying it's because I fear judgment. I feel that people will say something about me. So again, this self-worth, or seeking for approval, or need to be perfect before I do something. So what would you say to people? How do you just get rid of this fear of judgment and just let it go and have fun?
I think there's two elements to this. So the first one, oftentimes when we fear being judged, is because there's an unresolved part of ourselves, and it's often where we're actually judging ourselves on something. So it's, again, bringing that into your consciousness, into your awareness, so that you're able to kind of release it. But the most important thing, and this is something I wish that I'd had this understanding of when I was growing up, and that's it's really recognizing that every single person on this planet is living in their own separate reality. So there's 7.5 billion people on the planet right now. So that's 7.5 billion separate realities. That's 7.5 billion people with their own eyes and seeing the world and making judgments and perceptions of the world through their own eyes. So even if somebody is actually judging you, it's just based on their own worldview. And for many people, they're still living in a very limited worldview. They don't have the same level of awareness or consciousness. They're still evolving. And that's okay, because they are where they need to be. But it's really recognizing that when people are judging you, that it's okay, because it doesn't say anything about you. It's more about them and where they're at. And there was another point I was going to say about that, but it's completely escaped my mind. I can't remember what it was. What was it? I can't remember. It will come back to me in a minute.
I like what you say about the map, because yeah, we all have our map or our vision of the world, and if we need to seek, for me it goes down to seeking for approval and self-worth and self-acceptance, because if we don't accept ourselves at the core being with our, you know, we no one is perfect, or everyone.
Exactly.
I always say the other way around. I say we are perfect. We are born here perfect as a baby, and then time and prejudice and this environment and all these structures, we get actually kind of that darkness on who we truly are, because I see everyone as pure light or diamonds, and then what we need to do is to remove all these layers so you can shine again and be your true self. And I think we are perfect as we are, but we tend to think that we need to something else, or we need someone to tell us how beautiful we are, because otherwise our self-worth is not validated. And I think it comes into accepting yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm amazing, I'm beautiful, I don't need anyone to tell me. I love if someone tells me, but I don't care if someone says something bad about me, because I have so much love for myself that actually I can go on a video and I don't care.
Yeah.
No, it's more like freeing yourself. And I think for me as a sensitive person, I've been always very shy and not willing to speak up. But in my heart, I knew there was something we needed to do, or I needed to do to really share my values, you know, because otherwise other people is ruling the world. We're ruling the world. Who do we want to be ruling the world? Like highly sensitive or compassionate people, love, kindness, collaboration. You need to ignore all this darkness that is taking over the world. So more and more people are waking, but it's a lot of work that we need to put in to ignite your soul or your So,
I think it's also good to remember that being highly sensitive is actually a gift, and that's something that we're shamed for. Like we're told, oh, you're too sensitive, but it's simply not true. It's really a gift, because we have the true gift of compassion, because we can feel. It can feel like a hindrance if we don't know how to manage our own sensitivity, but we can really feel other people's feelings, so we can be more compassionate. We can be more caring, and the issue isn't that we're sensitive, it's that the world, the old world, because obviously we're now moving into a new world, but the old world is insensitive, because you know, children, every single child when they're born is born sensitive, naturally very sensitive. Some children more so than others, but they become desensitized, and then and it's because we're forced to suppress our emotions and how we feel, so we become these desensitized adults who then shame their children for being too sensitive or too emotional or whatever. And it's no one's fault, it's just what happens. But we don't have to allow that to happen. We can stand so boldly in our truth and completely love and accept ourselves for who we are, exactly as we are, and stand up and say, no, I'm not going to allow you to try and dim my light. I'm not going to change for you, because I am enough.
Yes, we are enough. and that's a beautiful way to also, I think, once we imagine if everyone will come into a partnership or relationship or in parenthood, they solve, you know, I think it will be much it will be much better. We will be in better position into bringing that in our life and getting our children from the place of allowing them to express themselves as well.
I'm just gonna, on that note, I'm just gonna go and let Ronnie because it's being a bit demanding. Go on, can you go?
have a pillow.
A pillow?
Yeah, I want that.
Okay, just be careful.
Close the door.
It's okay, I won't close it.
Oh,
So yeah, I mean, it's from a parenting perspective, that was Ronnie. From a parenting perspective, it can be really tough when you become, I'll just quickly go back to when Amelia was born. I was so caught up in my head trying to do things the right way, so aware or assumed that people were judging me for my parenting, and I didn't really enjoy the experience because I was just so in my head the whole time and stressed and anxious. And with Ronnie, I vowed when I was pregnant with him that I would just do things my way, and I have raised him very intuitively. It's been a very completely different experience, but I still get aware of that kind of old way of thinking, like it's all about power and control and, you know, telling them to be quiet or telling them how to behave and all this, that and the other, which that's part of the problem of the world, is this idea that we can control people and trying to suppress them and dim their light and force them into being something that they're not. And it is hard when you want to allow your children to fully express themselves and be who they're born to be. It is hard because society in general is so against that way of parenting, but certainly with Ronnie in particular, because he's he's carrying a lot of anger. He's 3 in a week, but he really struggles with it. He's got all this explosive energy, and it can make parenting really challenging. But whereas some people would probably be very heavy-handed with a child like him, which I'm very against. To me, it's my job to help him find a way to channel that energy, because all of that emotion is energy. And I know that there's probably people watching me thinking, God, if that was my son, he'd get a clip round the ear or whatever. But me living in integrity is ignoring, staying in my own lane, doing what feels right to me, what feels right to my intuition, and doing that. And it makes a whole different parenting experience. And essentially that is how we really help our children, is to not read the books, apart from mine when I publish it, of course, is to not allow other people's judgments or opinions to impact how you then parent your children. And it's not just children, but how you do your business or how you show up in your career. Is really tuning into and your deeper inner knowing, and just allowing that to guide you. And it's not easy. Like I say, there's all these voices. There's your own inner voice, your kind of mind chatter. But there are people that will be very expressive with their opinions because they think they're entitled to tell you what to do, and you don't have to allow it.
Yes, don't allow it. I love it, and we'll be speaking about this over and over forever. I would like to hear from you, maybe for those people again that one practical ways to really start tapping into expressing more or opening up more into connecting with their soul or their heart. 3 tips or 3 things that you think it helped you and they can help other people watching this.
Okay, so the first thing is all around presence. So find something that works for you that's going to allow you to be present. I think generally we can be very busy, especially and distracted in our minds, that it can be really difficult, but everyone can find something that gives them that calm. So it could be meditation, it could be just going for a walk, it could be just taking a shower, that thing that just completely calms your mind, because it's in those moments of presence that to me is how you really heal. Because in the now there is no past. So many of us are stuck in the past, things that have happened, that we've allowed those things to affect our present, or we're so focused on the future and then start to feel really anxious. But really, once we're present and grounded, there's no past and future, so we're healed. Everything is as it needs to be, and that's when we can allow our wisdom to flow and to guide us. So find that one thing that's going to help you to get present. And essential oils, actually, if you struggle with meditation or you don't have the time for a walk, find a nice essential oil that really resonates with you and just breathe it in or diffuse it. Just allow yourself to really feel that oil, and that's just such a great way to kind of ground you again. Number 2, I would say, is start to really listen to your body, and just to really notice the different sensations in your body. So what is it that gives you that really excited feeling? So for me, it's all around, I don't know what chakra, what is that chakra there? Is that your sacral?
Well, this
Shadow,
is, you
one sort of mood.
have plexus, and then you have your heart.
Oh, that was it. So when I get that really kind of excited feeling there, that's, to me, that's my feeling of joy. So I try to follow that feeling. And likewise, when you're starting to feel sensations that you don't like, start to kind of be present, like just to become aware of what that's trying to tell you. Like, is that actually because there's something in your head that you're afraid of that's creating that sort of anxious feeling? Or maybe it's an intuitive kind of feeling that's trying to alert you to something, that's trying to warn you about something. So the more you kind of connect and listen to your body, the more you can start to tap into your sort of intuition. And then number 3, I would say, what could it be? Just do more childlike stuff. So all the things you loved doing as a kid that you had no kind of judgment around, you just did them purely for love and purely for joy. Just start bringing more of those things into your life without any attachment to the outcome, without thinking, I'm only going to do this because I want to be successful at it. You can just do things purely for love and purely for joy. Like I mentioned earlier, I love to sing. I don't have a great voice, but it's not going to stop me because I really enjoy doing it. So do more of those things and just notice how much happier you feel when the more you connect to that joy.
Yeah, I love it because I dance and sing, and I still think I'm a good singer, even if some people say I'm not. But I think it doesn't matter as long as you enjoy it. And I totally believe, like what you mentioned about the essential oils. I've been always very passionate about essential oils, but recently I also started to do much more of my own cosmetics, or kind of my body with pure stuff, because I naturally buy non-parabens things, but I started to feel like I want to create my own cosmetics. I used to do it in the past, and I started to play more because it's a way to play as well, doing making or essential oils, painting, dancing, writing. So with that, I want to talk about your projects as well, because I know you're doing something very interesting for people who wants to write or express themselves in a writing way. So I would like to hear more about your projects and share it with the people watching this, because I think it's very interesting and exciting.
Yeah. So first of all, there's a book collaboration that's coming out hopefully March next year, called Uncaged-The Rise of the Badass, which Moni is a co-author on. So we have, I think, 27 ladies who have written a chapter, and I can honestly say the chapters are absolutely phenomenal. What these women have experienced in their lives and the lives they've now created in spite of their experiences are just massively inspirational. But this book is really about empowering women. It's really women who have turned their mess into their message, to help other women, so helping other women to step into their truth, to live authentically. It's just such an incredibly powerful book. So that's really exciting. And the other thing, I've got a few projects going on, but my big one is my writing retreat in Ibiza next year. So writing is such an incredible tool, not only just because you want to write a book, and obviously books are amazing for your business, but actually as a tool to help you to heal. So many of us, we have so much in our shadow that we're not even aware of. We've got so much unconscious thought that we have suppressed. Like, so many people think that once you experience trauma, especially early on in life, that you'll forget it. That doesn't happen. Your brain just files it away and pushes it down. And even though you're not conscious of it, that unconscious thought drives a lot of your experiences and your patterns and your behavior. So a lot of my more destructive habits come from my unconscious mind, even though I'm not consciously aware of it. So writing is a fantastic tool to be able to access your unconscious mind and bring it into your consciousness, so that you can transmute it and express it and allow that energy to flow and be released. So my writing retreat is really to help women to write their book, but also use writing as a really deeply healing and transformational tool. And there's all sorts of really amazing stuff that I have planned. And another thing is there's going to be a great tantric aspect to help women to connect to their sexual energy as well. Because again, this is something that we've cut off, we've really suppressed, because we have all this shame around sex. We're told that it's dirty, that we're slags, we're sluts, whatever. So we massively deny that part of ourselves. And, And by doing that, we're also cutting off pleasure. So that's why so many of us are women. We really struggle to receive and to allow ourselves to receive pleasure. That's why we don't put ourselves first, because we don't think we're worthy, or we're worthy enough to put ourselves first. So it's really connecting with that energy, because the more you connect and tap into that, the more you can connect and tap into your creativity. And once you connect with that part of you, your true essence, like magic unfolds and magic happens. So yeah, that's my Ibiza writing retreat in May, which I'm so excited about.
Ibiza is a beautiful, wonderful place, and it has amazing energy. I hope I can join you. I'm thinking maybe I will be in Bali next year. I don't know, but I think Ibiza, it's a magic island, so I think definitely go there, and it's a very nice time to go. And also, I love what you say about the tantra thing, because I believe that it's something that is considered or I hear a lot in the Western society, kind of dark, or kind of again too sexual or something, but it's all about connection and union and being in essence a true being, so as part of that is connecting with all our chakras, and sexuality is one of the most important things that we need to tap into. So I love it, because I think then it's when you are really having a healthy relationship with that part of yourself, you are able, as a woman, to tap into your creative power and the magic. I love the magic, I love the miracles, because I think it's not about believing only, it's about experiencing. And once you start seeing changes in your life, because you tap into those things, it's beautiful, because then you can see the world is different, and you can contribute as well. So if you go to a retreat like Michelle's one, it's like who knows what is coming from there. We might have the next book that is actually healing and helping other people as well. So it's all about helping each other and teaching each other, and I love it. And I want to know how people can contact you. I will put your details on the video, but if you want to say your website and how can they reach out if they want to work with you?
Sure, so you can find me at michellecatanach.co.uk, and if you want to download the first chapter of the Uncaged book, it's riseofthebadass.com/sample, and that's a really great way for you to support us. And of course I can then keep you updated about the actual book release, because it's going to be, I just know it's going to, my big vision for that book right from the start was it's going to be something incredible. So I'd love for you to be part of that vision.
It's beautiful, a badass, a wild woman, and for me, in essence, being alive and being truly yourself. So thank you so much for joining me today with Conversations with Joy. We were talking about joy, passion, igniting your true essence, and I love to talk to you. I love to see you, and I look forward to hear more on their new projects and to see you in person very soon. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. And actually, before we go, I just wanted to let you know that my spiritual name is Joy. So I've actually got it tattooed on my foot as well. So when I was a baby, instead of being like christened, we had like a spiritual naming ceremony, and that was the name that I was given.
Oh my God. I'm all about joy. You see, I have the hummingbirds around. It's all in my, yes. I'm really, because I think for me, obviously love and connecting to your heart, it's like the gate to that explosion of energy and tapping into what is truly being alive. And for me, when I tap into joy, it's like the ultimate connection with the whole, and it's, everything is possible. So I know that you are joy as well, because I'm an alchemist of joy. So that I love it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.